fact, I think next chapter we start covering probably on Monday will be the cardiac chapter, just because I can and I like it and I get excited about it. So the cardiac muscle is involuntary, meaning you do not have the capability to control it. And it is striated. We talked about it's different than the actin and myosin striations. These striations are because of the intercalated discs. They are the little cellular communication centers. So here we have a picture showing those little striations, those little intercalated discs. And these specific areas on the cell is unique to the heart. We don't see this anywhere else in the body. And the reason why the heart has these discs is because they help all of the muscle fibers to contract at the exact same time, at the exact same speed, at the exact same strength. Because if we have all our muscle fibers just, man, I'm going to do my own thing, our heart would be pumping like this. And that is not good for anybody. The other thing about the heart that we'll talk about in the next chapter is it is not dependent on the brain to send an electrical impulse. When we talked about the skeletal muscle, the first thing that had to happen was our brain had to have a thought, send a message via motor nerves that then crossed the neuromuscular junction, releasing the neurotransmitters, causing the calcium to flow out of the sarcoplasmic reticulum, etc., etc. The heart doesn't need this. The heart has a little bundle of cells called the sinoatrial node. And the crazy thing is, this sinoatrial node creates and transmits its own electricity. It is a bundle of cells that is able to kind of manufacture an electrical impulse, transmit it across these specialized cardiac cells, causing them to contract. And it's this little bundle of cells that regulates the strength of the contraction and the speed. The intercalated discs make sure everybody's coordinated, but the pacemaker is the thing that speeds up, slows down, causes your heart to beat harder or less hard, softer, and regulates. And I think we talked a little bit yesterday about how you can have a person who is completely brain dead. They have no brain function at all and still have a functioning heart, because the transmission of the nerve impulses is not dependent on brain function. And of course, that's where you get zombies, is because, I'm kidding, obviously. Physiologically, you guys, zombies can't happen. Anatomically, it's not possible for zombies to be a thing. So rest easy. Rest easy. Zombies cannot be animate. You can't have an animate dead thing. In fact, we're going to talk about dead things here in just a minute. So our rhythm, and oh, why would you make her cry? Risa, that sounds terrible. That sounds not nice at all. You guys have never made me cry. Although I don't have many emotions, so all right, so here we have our SA node, the sinoatrial node. And the really interesting thing about this, so if I draw a picture of, obviously the heart does not look like this. Come on. Right here is my sinoatrial node. This is where your med term intro into anatomy is going to come into play. So this sinoatrial node sends its impulse like a little lightning bolt across the atria, and that causes the two atria to contract. Here we have a second node called the atrioventricular node, and some of the conduction goes and gets collected. So we have some of it moving across and some of it being collected. And the collection of electricity here is then funneled down another specialized group of cells called the bundle of His. And the bundle of His's job is to unequally distribute. So we have some of the electricity going to the right ventricle and more going to the left ventricle, because we know that the left ventricle has to contract much harder than the right, because the blood from the left side goes all over your body to your baby toe. The blood from the right is only leaving and going to your lungs. So it's this 4 groups of cells combined with those intercalated discs that is helping the heart to contract. So these dots, Alondra, you don't really have to worry about them right now. The one we're talking about specifically is the sinoatrial node. This one is the atrioventricular, or the AV node. And it's these combined with the rest of the conduction cells that allows the electricity to funnel, kind of pass through the cells, causing the muscle, cardiac muscle, to contract. So it's really pretty cool. And the heart is really very self-sustaining. So here's a picture, a little more true to life picture. So let's just get you oriented. This is the right, this is, oops, not V, left. Here is the right atrium and the left atrium, the right ventricle, the left ventricle. Here is the sinoatrial node, sending impulse, causing our atria to contract. Here is our atrial ventricular. It's called that because it's located right between the atria and the ventricles. Here we have that specialized group bundle of His, and you can see that much more of the conduction is being sent to the left than to the right. And that's how the heart creates and conducts its own electricity. And this is one of the big things that we have a lot of problems with. This is one of the reasons why we can do heart transplants, because you cannot sever and then reattach a nerve. Once a nerve is damaged, it's damaged forever. So if the brain was needed to allow the heart to beat, there would be no such thing as a heart transplant, because you couldn't cut that nerve and then sew it back together in a new person. It's this independent electrical conduction that allows us to take a heart out of somebody and transplant it into another somebody, because there's really no brain heart nerve needed. So the sinoatrial node, as I said, this is just yet another picture. It is what is going to send conduction and cause the atria to contract. Then we have the atrioventricular node, bundle of His, Purkinje fibers, and that's what causes the ventricles to contract. So your heart really does beat. If this is my atria and this is my ventricle, it beats like this. So our heart is kind of a side street to our nervous system. Now, it is controlled in some part by what we call our autonomic nervous system. Autonomic meaning that we don't control it, it's automatic. We have our sympathetic nervous system, and I've used these words before. Sympathetic is the nervous system that keeps you out of trouble. It is the nervous part of your nervous system that is activated when you are in perceived danger. So, for example, you're driving on the Houston highway and somebody decides, I need to be in your lane right now. And they come tearing over, and you are this close to having a terrible, terrible accident. And whew, you don't. But what happens to you? Oh my goodness, your heart starts beating, your respirations increase, your eyes get super wide, you're gripping the steering wheel. Sometimes you may even get a little bit of a trembling, a little bit of a shake. That's all your fight or flight. When we get into the nervous system, we're going to talk about the specific things behind the fight or flight. What exactly is happening during the fight or flight? Right now, because we're just talking about the muscle, what we need to know is that the sympathetic nervous system stimulates the heart to beat faster. Sometimes this is what adrenaline junkies are addicted to, is stimulating the sympathetic nervous system. And if you have something like a PTSD, that means that your body is in a constant state of fight or flight. Your brain is hyper attentive and your body is splooshing cortisol everywhere. And that is an enhanced version of this sympathetic nervous system. One of the ways that you can remember sympathetic, my stepdog, Jenny, I call her Jen. I refuse to call her Jenny. Jen, my stepdog, has thunderstorm anxiety, meaning that if there is a rumble of thunder within a 50-mile radius, she is flipping the freak out. She starts to, does anyone else have an animal with thunderstorm or fireworks? No, Risa, I was saying it like Forrest Gump. That's what he named his stupid dog. Jenny. It's spelled Jennay. Jenny. When he got her, we were at PetSmart like 12 years ago, 10 years ago. She crawled up in his lap and he looks at me and he says, I think this is my dog. Well, we don't live together. Get a dog. So he's walking around. He's like, I think her name is Jenny because mine and hers is like peas and carrots. And he's walking around PetSmart going, Jenny, Jenny, why won't you let me love you, Jenny? I don't claim this man. So yes, Jenny, I call her Jen. All right, so does anybody have a dog who's got thunder or fireworks anxiety? So are they just comatose, hanging out? Of course not. They're panting, they're drooling, their heart is pounding out of their chest. They're trying to hide, they're trying to get up underneath you. They will stick their head up behind you. Whenever Jen has got this reaction and she is freaking out, I really have sympathy for her because it must be terrible to be that afraid of something that you cannot control. So when I think of who do I have sympathy for, the sympathetic nervous system, that kicks in my mind all of the things that are happening to her when I have sympathy during a thunderstorm. So it may help, it may not. That's how I help to remember. Now, parasympathetic is the exact opposite. Parasympathetic is what is activated after you have a giant meal. It said feed or breed. So after you eat or after you perform the action to reproduce, the parasympathetic nervous system is what is then initiated. And this slows down your heart, but strengthens the beat. It slows but deepens your respirations. What it also does, especially during the feed part, is it diverts blood to your gut, because after you've eaten is the time that your gut needs a higher volume of blood. We got to pay, and we got to pick up all the nutrients that the GI tract is breaking apart. So I got to increase the blood flow to the gut, which means diverting it from other places. So what happens during the parasympathetic is your brain takes a look around. Think about you after Thanksgiving Day meal. Okay, the parade is over. You're watching the Eukanuba dog show. I don't know what time you guys eat. We eat like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and then we just pick at it all day long. So we're watching the Eukanuba dog show. We're getting ready for some football, and I'm laying on the couch. Do I really feel like I'm gonna go for a mile run? Of course not. My brain has looked around and said, okay, we are in a safe space, and this is where we're going to stay. So we're just gonna start shutting stuff down. And that's where I'm like, this is drool. Every now and then I reach over and put something else into my hole and just, and I'm just watching football. That's the parasympathetic nervous system. So these are two opposite sides of the coin that are governed automatically for you. Oh my goodness, Leanna, I'm so sorry to hear that. We start cooking. This is how you do it. So for those of you that are adults, because I am very fortunate in many aspects of my life, but I get 2 Thanksgivings because I celebrate the Canadian Thanksgiving with my family, and then my significant other and I do the American Thanksgiving, just the 2 of us. So when it's just the Thanksgiving for the 2 of us, we prep the night before. That turkey is in the oven at 6 o'clock in the morning, and we are sitting down plates full by 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I wanted to for the rest of the day. And hell no, I'm not going shopping. I did that one time, because my sisters needed a pit bull because they're a little bit polite. They are the stereotypical Canadian. And the year before, they had people butting in front of them in line. And I was like, oh, hell no. So I went with them, and I was the bodyguard. And when people would start trying to butt in line, their Canadian thing was, oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, go ahead. I'm like, nope, line starts back there. And I just start walking. It was the first and only time I did Black Friday, because I saw 4 fist fights and someone set the Walmart on fire. So I said, never again. If you guys want to go, you're just going to have to deal with it, because I'm not doing it ever again. It was kind of nice to be on purpose rude to people, though. Yes, I'm the non-stereotypical, although I do still say sorry. I mean, that's just part of our DNA, is that we apologize for everything. It's just, it's like, it doesn't even mean I'm sorry. It's just a placeholder. Sorry, I'm so sorry. But I'll say it while I'm pushing you out of line. Sorry. All right, so we'll cover way more about the heart, because again, right now we're just talking about the muscular structure and how does it contract. Oh, I'll tell you about a Thanksgiving, Canadian Thanksgiving after class, Celeste. We'll finish that up. You know what? I'll start nutrition with it. No, they're God. Oh, no maple syrup. I'll start nutrition and tell you about Canadian Thanksgiving. It's really no different. We have different food, but you just eat until you're ready to throw up and then you fall asleep. That's it. All right, so smooth muscle. Smooth muscle, I'll tell you about that later too. Smooth muscle, it does not have any striations, hence it's termed smooth, and it is involuntary, okay? Your nervous system deals with it automatically. We have visceral smooth muscle, which is in your hollow organs, think stomach, intestines, bladder, that would be visceral. Remember medical terminology, visceral means organ. We also have small, little distinct smooth muscle groups called multi-units. So those are the two basic forms of our smooth muscle. Now, smooth muscle still works the same way as striated voluntary. We have actin and myosin that are then engaging, contracting towards the middle, causing the muscle to contract. The big difference here with our smooth muscle is that we typically see it in round or round-esque organs, hollow tubes. So if I have here a hollow tube, having striations like this is not going to contract and push stuff through. It's just going to go like sucking a straw too hard and it collapses on itself. So what we need is to have that actin and myosin. So this is all the actin and myosin filaments. They're just not lined up. And when they contract, you can see here they are. Here we have a muscle that is in relaxation. When they contract, it then contracts the muscle and helps like toothpaste through a toothpaste tube, squeezing sausage out of the casing. And that's what causes stuff to move through these hollow organs. But it's this configuration of the actin and myosin that does not give you the stripes, because instead of like this, we're more like this. So our visceral smooth muscle comes in waves. And in fact, I think I may have shown this to you before, but I want to show it to you again anyway. So give me just a quick second, because I have like a 2-second video of the peristaltic wave in the distal end of the stomach. All right, give me just a second. All right, so what I'm going to show you here is where they have put a camera, an endoscope, down the esophagus, through the cardiac sphincter, into the stomach. And it is now right at the stomach where it's going to start moving into the small intestines. And this will show you that circular contraction and how it just is wave after wave after wave. Oops, what did I do? I did not show the right thing. Where did it go? Oops, I gotta move you guys. All right, can you see that peristaltic wave of the antrum where it's paused? Is that, okay, there's no sound to the video. So I'm just gonna maximize it here. Okay, there is sound, but. So here's one wave. It's just moving away from us. And here comes another wave. And now you can really kind of visualize and having that circular contraction, and then it's going to roll away. And then right behind it is another one. And so that's what I'm talking about when I say it's a little bit different. The mechanics are the same, but the method behind the contraction is a little different. Skeletal muscles contract towards the middle and relax. This is it. This is their action. Visceral muscles, and it's hard for me to do a charade of this, but now you can mentally visualize what's going on. Does that make sense to everybody? Oh, well, Alex, if that bothers you while you're eating, you're in the wrong field. Trust me, you're going to see stuff that is way grosser than that when you are in practice. All right, let me stop. What is happening? Oh, stop. Hang on, I forgot to stop this and now it's just auto playing. Oh, where did you guys go? Oh, there you are. See, this is one of the issues having triple screens. Is sometimes I lose you. So where we were in the video that we just saw was right here. At the distal part of the stomach, this is called the antrum. Oops. We'll talk about that when we get to the digestive system. But it was moving stuff out of the stomach into the small intestines, and then it's just this rolling. Now, we have some other voluntary or involuntary muscles. Now, these are contracting. They have the same idea as far as more of a circular contraction. But this is going to have very specific impulses needed and stimuli to cause the change, the muscle change. So things like the iris, the walls of your blood vessels, causing them to expand and contract, the alveoli in your lungs. These are going to require very specific nerves to tell them to contract. Whereas your visceral contraction is mainly governed by sensors, stretch receptors. When your stomach gets full, or your body tells your brain, oh my gosh, I'm hungry, that's where your stomach just automatically starts. If it moves food into the small intestines, now those stretch receptors tell the muscle fibers, strengthen the contraction, strengthen the contraction. In your blood vessels, your iris, your alveoli, we don't have those same stretch receptors. So what we have here are very specific nerves that are going to govern those contractions. So here, for example, the capillary vessels, I don't have stretch receptors, but I do need them to have expansion and contraction to cause the blood to pump and flow through them, allowing for the exchange of gases to happen. So the idea, the fibers, the parts of the muscle cell contracting are essentially very similar. It's just how are they regulated and what is governing them. So here we're just showing some of our common intramuscular injection sites. You may have gone over this in intro class. I don't know if you've yet done that. You will if you have not. We can give intramuscular, kind of depends on the breed. We want to give intramuscular injections into relatively large muscles. The larger the amount, the larger the volume that you're giving, the larger the muscle you need to put it into. So we can give them here into these shoulder muscles. Here we have the epaxial muscles, which is a very deep lumbar muscle. And then the most common would be back here in the hamstrings. Now, the one thing that you do have to be very careful about when you are doing intramuscular injections is to avoid nerves. We definitely don't want to be injecting anything into a nerve or causing nerve damage. In our horses, you can give injections into the thigh muscle. It is not very commonly done. Number one, it can cause them to come up lame, which then affects their hoof health. Lame horses also have trouble with their gut. The other reason why we very rarely give IM injections into the thigh muscle or the hip muscle is because they kick. They're going to kick you. They're going to hurt you. Where we typically give it is in the golden triangle right here, just cranial to the shoulder. This is called the withers. And so what we can do is just above, just cranial to that shoulder, we have that nice heavy musculature. And we can do it, it's like a slap injection if you've never given an injection to a horse. So if this is my injection, and this is, you know what, come here, Uni. Here's my horse. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to take my needle and I'm gonna hold it like, I'm going to take my hand and I'm going to go slap, slap, poke in. And the two first, not hard, I mean, I'm not beating the crap out of this poor horse, but I'm just very quickly going to go slap, slap in, pull back, inject, out, hold off. Very, very quick. Yeah, this is one of my at-home unicorns. This is one of them. I do, like, hey, my house is not like this weird, creepy unicorn palace, though, guys. I don't want you to think that, you know, there's hidden behind me in my living room this shrine to unicorns. So here we have Uni. And so we're just going to go in his neck. And I have my syringe, and then syringe is uncapped. And I'm just going to go slap, slap, in, pull back, inject, out here. And that's just to keep the horse from freaking out, because horses startle easily. And what happens if you are just chilling, burp, 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 and suddenly you get what feels like a bee sting? Are you not going to flip out a little bit? Ah! The two slaps and then the bee sting, it just gets their mind on the area so that it doesn't startle them and panic them. You guys are going to learn. So where my Sterlings are right now, some of them are at the farm. And they're learning how to do this on horses. You guys are going to learn on large animals how to vaccinate, deworm, dehorn, castrate, all of the above. In the cow, we only ever give it in the shoulder. Never, ever in the hip or the rear region. The reason for that is cows pretty much just poop all the time uncontrollably. And what we don't want is to have an injection site potentially contaminated with fecal bacteria. That'll cause some pretty nasty abscesses. And if you have a cow with a major abscess, you can't sell them for food. That's a big no-no. Can't sell diseased cows. It's the 3Ds: dead, diseased, or down. 3D cows cannot be sold. They cannot be slaughtered. They cannot be processed. So if you're trying to give injections, we're going to give them here in the neck, cranial shoulder region. Hey, let's talk about dead things for a minute. Who knows what happens to you after you die? Oh, I love the action. Faith, Amanda, good, yeah, Janet, good rigor mortis. You then will bloat. You then will swell. You then will have parts of you rupture, turn black, and then eventually all the meat will rot off your bones, and then that's it. That's all that happens. So let's talk about rigor mortis. Now, there are actually several different stages to what is called mortis. Mortis, taken from the word muerte, meaning death. Mortis is the physiological changes that happen to you right after you die. So I'm gonna actually just take this off here because I want to see you guys. So you have something that has passed away. Immediately following death, brain activity has ceased. But remember, the heart is not dependent on brain activity. And so what you may end up getting is what is called an agonal gasp. So if I have, no, I'm not putting that on myself. Oh, hold on, you guys, there's someone at my door. Just 1 minute. Sorry guys, that was FedEx. I was expecting a package. So Miss Huff can travel again. What? It wasn't really a big one, Savannah. It's just my brand new passport with one of the worst photographs of myself ever taken in the history of man. So I now have my passport validated. Huzzah. Sorry.
I believe terrible passport photos are required by law.
Oh my God, I look like I've been dead for about 3 days. And I'm sorry, this is still recording. I probably should have paused that.